At 3 hours before daybreak on May 29, 1453, the total silence over the Marmara Sea shattered. 69 Ottoman cannons fired in a synchronized barrage, instantly covering the coastline in dense black powder smoke. This is the Bosphorus Strait. Geographically, it functions as a strict dividing line between Europe and Asia. In the mid-15th century, the city of Constantinople sat exactly on this intersection, serving as a heavily fortified Christian enclave that physically bisected the expanding Islamic Ottoman Empire. By this point, the Byzantine Empire had shrunk almost entirely to the boundaries of this single city. It was effectively a ghost town. Only 50,000 citizens remained in a metropolis built for 500,000, living among vast orchards and abandoned ruins. To survive against the Ottomans, the Byzantines relied on the Theodosian walls. This was a 14-mile, multi-tiered stone defense network. Each successive wall stood higher than the one in front of it, giving defenders an unobstructed line of fire. It was a perfectly engineered killing zone that had defeated every advancing army for over a millennium. Sultan Mehmed II took the Ottoman throne for the second time at the age of 21. He understood that leaving a hostile, fortified bridgehead directly in the center of his territory invited a future European crusade. Breaking those ancient walls was a geographic necessity. Mehmed had to physically erase the Christian enclave to secure his borders and consolidate a global empire. A Hungarian metalworker named Orban originally offered to build artillery for the Byzantines. The city was totally bankrupt and could not afford his bronze or his wages. Orban immediately took his designs to Sultan Mehmed. This diagram compares standard field artillery of the time against Orban's creation, known as the basilica. Cast in solid bronze, the weapon was 27 feet long and designed to fire solid granite spheres weighing up to 1,200 pounds. Operating the basilica was an agonizing logistical crawl. The massive weapon could only be dragged about 6 miles a day by a team of 60 oxen and hundreds of laborers. Because the black powder burned so hot, the barrel had to be continuously soaked in warm olive oil after firing to keep the bronze from cracking. It could only fire a few times a day, but the kinetic energy was devastating. When these half-ton granite spheres struck the Theodosian defenses, rigid stone walls that had stood for 1,000 years shattered into loose rubble. Orban's supergun rendered the logic of vertical stone defenses entirely obsolete. Height and thickness could no longer protect a city against concentrated gunpowder artillery. Months before the first cannon fired, Mehmed secured absolute maritime dominance. He ordered the construction of the Rumeli Hisari fortress at the narrowest point of the Bosphorus, equipping it with large-caliber cannons to sink unauthorized shipping and cut off Constantinople's grain supply. This is the Golden Horn. It borders the city's northern sea walls, which were much weaker than the landward defenses. The Byzantines protected this inlet by stretching a massive iron chain across the water, physically blocking the Ottoman fleet from entering the harbor. This map details Mehmed's bypass operation. Since his galleys couldn't break the chain, he commanded thousands of laborers to lay down greased wooden rollers over the steep hills of Galata. Under the cover of darkness and artillery fire, teams of oxen dragged roughly 70 galleys completely overland and dropped them directly into the Golden Horn. At dawn, the Byzantine defenders woke to find a hostile Ottoman fleet sitting securely inside their protected harbor. They were forced to pull soldiers off the desperately undermanned land walls to guard the northern sea perimeter. Mehmed systematically neutralized the geography. He closed the straits, bypassed the blockade, and stretched the Byzantine defenses until they cracked. Inside the city, the mathematics of attrition took hold. Around 7,000 exhausted defenders were stretched across 14 miles of crumbling fortifications, facing a concentrated Ottoman force of up to 160,000 men. Sensing a break in morale on both sides, Mehmed ordered a general assault on May 29th. He launched 3 distinct infantry waves, using irregulars and provincial troops to exhaust the defenders' ammunition before releasing 3,000 highly disciplined janissaries into the breaches. The Latin and Greek defenders held the line until their master siege engineer, Giovanni Giustiniani, was struck by an Ottoman projectile. As he was carried away from the St. Romanus Gate, panic swept the ranks and the defensive line disintegrated. Realizing the city was lost, Emperor Constantine XI stripped off his imperial purple robes. He charged directly into the collapsing front lines to die as a common foot soldier. His body was never definitively identified. Ottoman banners appeared on the inner walls. Following 3 days of traditional looting, Mehmed rode to the Hagia Sophia to pray. After surviving for over 2 millennia, the Roman political entity ceased to exist. The fall of the city triggered a massive migration. Fleeing Byzantine academics and intellectuals boarded ships and headed straight for the Italian peninsula. They brought thousands of documents preserved in the imperial libraries. These original Greek manuscripts covered medicine, mathematics, and philosophy, previously absent from Western Europe. The sudden availability of Ptolemy's astronomy and the original texts of Plato injected raw empirical data directly into the Italian city-states. This specific influx of classical knowledge served as the intellectual fuel for the early modern period. Back across Europe, the military implications were clear. Local lords could no longer rely on stone castles for protection. Power rapidly centralized into national monarchs who possessed the tax base required to fund professional armies and artillery trains. This shift meant the end of the feudal era. The destruction of Constantinople's walls proved that only a state-funded treasury could afford the heavy artillery required to survive in 15th century warfare. This map shows the known world centered around the Mediterranean. By taking Constantinople, the Ottomans secured the Silk Road, heavily taxing European merchants. This economic choke point forced Portugal and Spain to search for deep-sea routes, bypassing the Mediterranean completely. The Ottoman blockade created the direct financial incentive for Vasco da Gama to circumnavigate Africa and for Christopher Columbus to sail west across the ocean in 1492. Meanwhile, Constantinople adapted. The ancient Christian architecture was repurposed, and the ruined settlement grew into the vibrant capital of a vast Islamic empire. The fall of the Theodosian walls proved that no fortification can withstand the march of technology. By shattering medieval stone defenses, the 1453 siege forced European power away from ancient land borders and out toward the vast global oceans.